The time had finally come. I had worked so hard for so long, and now the time was finally here. For months, I had been doing things around the house and whatnot to earn $600 to get a new camera. I had planned on getting a Canon T3i. I had originally planned on using the camera to make short films and maybe even upload them to YouTube if they're not crappy. Maybe my little brother Dylan could even be in one of the videos. It would be great. When I counted to $600, I couldn't believe my eyes. I had dreamed of this day many times, but I never thought it would actually come. I quickly ran downstairs, nearly screaming in excitement as I yelled for my dad. He seemed just as excited as I was when I told him I had finally earned enough money for the Canon T3i. I wanted to immediately leave to buy the camera, but I had to wait an hour because he had an important phone call. I begged him to take me now like a hungry dog begs for food, but of course I couldn't change his mind. I still don't see how a phone call, no matter how important, can take a full hour. I waited an hour, which felt like a week, for him to finally hang up the phone. When he finally did, I was out the door and in the car before he could even tell me it was time to go. I couldn't sit still in the car as we were on our way to the store. I just wanted to be there already. Finally, we arrived and went inside. It took around 5 minutes to actually find the camera, but when we did, I felt an even larger sense of excitement. I looked at the Canon T3i sitting there as if it were the Holy Grail. My dad and I took the camera up to the checkout desk, and I confidently handed the checkout lady the $600. When I got home, I carelessly tore open the box which held the camera. I had never actually used a Canon before, nor had I bothered to look up a tutorial on how to use it. So I spent a while just messing around with the camera, testing out all the things it could do. I have to say that I was really impressed with it. It was a little confusing at first, but I got the hang of it. As I continued messing around with the camera, I found one thing that was out of the ordinary. I recorded myself doing some stupid stuff to test out the video quality, and then I went to the video library to watch it. To my surprise, the video I had just recorded wasn't the only video there. There appeared to be 3 other videos recorded on it. The camera wasn't used, was it? How could these videos have gotten on there? The thumbnail picture of each video was a child around the age of 5 to 6, if I had to guess. Each of them didn't look particularly happy, nor sad. Their expressions were just neutral. Out of curiosity, I decided to watch the first video. The thumbnail picture was of a boy, 5 to 6 years old, as said before, with black hair and brown eyes. The video started. It began in a dark room with concrete walls and a concrete floor. The ceiling was not visible from the angle the camera was at. In the middle of the room there stood a brown wooden chair. This was all that could be seen for around 10 seconds. Then footsteps could be heard, followed by a shadow passing by the chair. Suddenly, a man came into the shot holding the boy seen in the thumbnail picture. He sat him down on the chair and tied him to it. You could see the rope alone was tight enough to hurt the boy. He then put tape over his mouth. You could see fear in the boy's brown eyes. He reminded me a bit of Dylan, who was around the same age. The man who tied up the boy walked out of the camera's view and came back around 15 seconds later with a blowtorch. The boy didn't seem to know what it was until he saw the flame emit from it. The man stood there, teasing the boy with the blowtorch. He held it up close to his face, about to burn him, but then moved it away at the last moment. He then took the boy's arm and, with the blowtorch, he burned the words, "This is hell," into his arm. The boy screamed as loud as he possibly could through the tape on his mouth. Tears were pouring from his eyes like rain that you could only wish would put out the flame. I flinched a little just thinking about how much pain he must be in. After this, the video cut to the man holding a mask with clamps. The mask was glowing red with heat. The boy had tipped a chair over and was now crying on the ground. The man then put the mask on the boy's face. He screamed so loud I dropped the camera and covered my ears. After around 4 seconds, the screaming stopped. I picked up the camera to see that the video was over. I just sat there, staring at the camera screen, not knowing what to think. Was that real? Did I just watch a snuff film? I couldn't have. I immediately knew that the remaining 2 videos would have similar content. I figured, why not watch the second one? It couldn't possibly be any worse than the first one. The second one started, and it was even better than the first one. I mean, it was worse, but in the most intriguing way. This time, it was a little girl sitting in the chair. She was about the same age as the boy in the previous video. She had blonde hair and blue eyes. The same man seen in the last video was present, except he had a small, narrow tube. He took his thumb and jammed it into the girl's left eye. She screamed louder than the boy did. My eyes were practically glued to the screen at this point. Next, he took the tube, put it far into her nose, reached into her mouth, and pulled it out of her mouth. Then, still holding both ends of the tube, he lifted her up into the air. At this point, she lost consciousness, and the video ended. This was great. I had to see the next one. I just had to. I watched the third video, and that one had to be the best of all. I could barely even put it into words. There was a boy who looked similar to the boy in the first video, in the chair this time. The man who I had grown to love in the last 2 videos came into the shot holding a knife. I thought to myself, well, using a knife doesn't seem very interesting. But oh, was I wrong when I continued watching. He cut off each of the boy's fingers, one by one, and force-fed them to him. He then proceeded with his toes and then moved onto his limbs. When all that was left was the torso and head of a crying boy pleading for mercy, the man hung him to the ceiling and began to beat the boy with his own limbs until he finally bled out. This was some of the best entertainment I could ever wish for. I immediately scrolled over to click the next video, but my smile turned into a frown when I saw that there were no more videos. That couldn't be it. There had to be more. I knew this must make me sound terrible, but I needed to see more. I spent an hour obsessing over this like a drug addict obsesses over crack. Then I got an excellent idea. After, once again, thinking about all the videos I had just seen, I immediately went to Dylan's room and asked him if he wanted to be in a video I was making. He said yes.